Here are your hosts, Kyle, Fellows, and Andrew Mertig. This is the Draft Fellows Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is the Draft Fellows Podcast. I am Andrew Mertig. That's Kyle Fellows, and together we are the Draft Fellows. Make sure you check out the channel on YouTube, or of course, you can always check out the audio version on your favorite podcasting platform. Today is our fourth and final episode of the series where we go around the league and take a look at who might be in the market for a quarterback in the 2025 offseason. And we know a lot is going to change in the coming months and throughout the season, but it is an interesting way to look at upcoming free agents and this rookie quarterback class, which currently has a lot of uncertainty. So we're going to jump right in. And Kyle, let's start with the NFC South and the Atlanta Falcons. You think the Falcons are going to be quarterback shopping this offseason?
No.
Well,
but what are they going to do though? Like, I mean, they might be selling one. Like, I don't know. I don't think they can do that either. But it'll be fascinating to see how fast Michael Penix gets on the field and like what that trajectory is. That's my biggest thing. Is like it felt like Kirk Cousins was there, and now it kind of feels like that pressure for Penix is there too. What do you think? Like, is there a path where like we get Penix earlier than we thought? Like, is this just a long burn like here to a 2 or 3 year window for him?
Yeah, I would think with Kirk, it's probably going to be a like 2 season and then out sort of deal. And I'm not sure how long Kirk Cousins wants to play. Maybe he wants to play beyond that. He's certainly maybe capable. But you talk about a quarterback who is 36, coming off of a torn Achilles. I do think that it is possible that the Falcons, would look to move on. Obviously, you're not investing a top 10 pick at quarterback with the idea that they're going to sit for all 4 years. Now, maybe if Kirk Cousins blows the doors off the place, that does become the situation. We saw this with the Packers where they thought Aaron Rodgers was close to the end. He comes back, has 2 MVP seasons, and Jordan Love is just stuck there sitting. And honestly, it's not a terrible problem to have. So yeah, I mean, for me, I think that window is 2 years. There is essentially no way the Falcons can get rid of Cousins this offseason unless they did a post-June 1st trade. Yeah. So I guess that's possible. That would really ruin their 2025 cap. But
No, it feels like Cousins is there. It just feels like this is not a team that's acquiring a quarterback next year. It just may not be a team that's devoid of some not controversy, but just some intrigue around how they will play this out, much like what we saw in Green Bay and just how long it took for those things to unfold. But I think we know the Falcons are happy with what they have at quarterback for the time being. The Carolina Panthers are a team that will be entering year 3 of the Bryce Young experiment, and we are going to learn a lot, Andrew, in this season about what that trajectory is. Is year 3 kind of is that his last audition going into next year, or will he have answered a lot of questions at that point and we feel really good about it? I think it's going to be fascinating for the Panthers.
Yeah, I think he would have to be truly atrocious this year for them to even consider giving up on him. I'm with you. I think this all kind of boils down to what does he do in year 3. I like the idea that the Panthers could have a nice bounce back this year. They invested really, really heavily in that interior offensive line. I think, Young, especially as a shorter quarterback, is going to feel a lot more comfortable with some big bodies up front. I think they're going to be able to maul. I think that running game is going to get going. Hopefully, we see some flashes from Chuba Hubbard, and then eventually Jonathan Brooks coming back in. Brooks is a really nice addition in the pass game. I think, you hope that somebody out of Tommy Tremble or Jatavian Sanders steps up and you get that nice tight end, good security blanket sort of player. And then out of the wide receivers, somebody continues to emerge. So, you have the reliable Deontay Johnson, reliable Adam Thielen, and then you get Xavier Legette to help blow the doors off the defense a little bit. And Young's a pretty good deep ball thrower. So I think all of those are going to give Bryce the opportunity to shine this year. All I'm looking for is, minor improvement. Like just keep getting better week after week. And I still have some problems. Like Young was not one of my favorite rookie prospects of all time, but I do see a path for him to succeed despite how rocky year one was.
We always talk about how there's teams that come from nothing to making the playoffs. I don't think the Panthers are there yet, but I do think that this is a sneaky team to be better than people anticipate that they can be. Bryce Young was not a bad college quarterback. There's a reason that he was drafted number 1 overall. And I think that there are a lot of people who are pretty high on Dave Canellis and what he's going to do coming into this Carolina organization. And a team that's willing to play for a head coach that plays to his players' strengths. I think there's a lot here, we're not really talking about Deontay Johnson a lot, but that's a really impactful player. And then you mentioned the other receivers that are there as well. Mingo coming in, sounds like he's having a better camp than he did last year. So a lot of things that could gel at the right time. I hope for Bryce Young's sake that this all happens, but it wouldn't be shocking to me if we saw not a playoff team, but a more competent team, especially in this NFC South where things are a little bit wide open.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen this from other number 1 overall picks in the past, like Jared Goff, kind of rocky start to his career, and Baker Mayfield, like he started off really strong and then kind of faded. And so it's not always this like linear progression path. And I think situation is such a huge factor, and it didn't work in year one. So we'll see if he can bounce back, but certainly both of us kind of expect that there's going to be more to it than just 2024 with the Panthers. And then we bounce into the Saints. So Derek Carr, a lot of uncertainty there. Some people even kind of predicting that Derek Carr maybe in his, final season with the Saints. They draft Desmond Ridder. You see the Saints as a team that's in the market for a quarterback?
Spencer Rattler. You said Ridder, which Ridder is also.
Yeah, that's a combination of Desmond Ridder and Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, Ridder has kind of had a tough offseason here as of late. But no, I really think Rattler is intriguing. Like there's reasons why he fell the way that he did. And I think we have to qualify that when we're a lot of people think he's just going to run in and take this job. And I don't know that happens. It feels like Derek Carr is more respected as a leader in that organization by the players around him than the media and other people give him credit for. At the same time, he struggled to stay healthy and he struggled to produce the last couple of years. So it will be an interesting path. I think there's a lot of pressure for the head coach there, Dennis Allen, to produce this year. And I don't know that he has a lot of history of, I'm trying to say this the right way. If pressure mounts, I think we could see a lot of change to try to save his job and to put blame in other places. And that would not shock me then in that case where it's easy to say, well, it's the quarterback. We need to move on from Carr. We get to Rattler maybe a little faster than even people think. So that's within the cards. But for this conversation, it wouldn't shock me if in 2025 we are back to the well. They're picking high. They're in the top 10. Are we talking about another quarterback here if Rattler wasn't convincing? So I think this is definitely a team to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And Dennis Allen stinks. He's a bad head coach, and I think he's a bad leader. I hate the way he throws his players under the bus and other coaches and stuff. It's not a good look. It's not necessary. I think, if the wheels really fall off, maybe this is finally the offseason where the Saints just take their medicine and, deal with the cap situation they've put themselves through and maybe kind of flush the system. And I don't know. I don't think Spencer Rattler is ever going to be the answer. And so I definitely see them in the market for a quarterback, but how aggressive they're willing to be, because that defense is going to give them a floor that they're probably not going to be picking in the top 5. So, we will see how that one progresses. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? This is fascinating to me because they just paid Baker Mayfield. If he regresses and it's maybe this was a Dave Canales special, do the Buccaneers look to move on?
Okay, so I don't have this information, and I'm sure my producer is working hard right now to pull it up. But Mike Evans' contract is fascinating to me in this because I feel like those two work really well together and they've kind of asked for each other there. But Mike Evans' contract, the guy's not young, right? Like this is a player who is loading currently, but he's a player that I think he signs an extension for 2 years. It suggests that they can get out after the 25 season. Is that what you see there? Oh no, they can get out after 24. So if the Bucks needed to get out of Mike Evans and things didn't go super well in 2024, could it be kind of the blow up and we start over with like younger pieces here? Because I feel like those two are kind of tied together. I don't know. Like it feels like there's commitment to Baker Mayfield, but I do wonder if the team got to a place where like they're like, we've got a 30-something-year-old wide receiver, we've got an underperforming quarterback that are kind of tied together. Do we jettison them both and just kind of start over here?
Yeah, and it is pretty friendly if the Buccaneers decide to move on this offseason. The dead cap for a pre-June 1st release is at least positive. It's only $2.5 million, but it's not the worst thing in the world. A post-June 1st would free up $20 million this year. Or I guess 2025. And then for the following year, you'd have a dead cap of about 17 million. So you can manage all of those things, especially if the goal is to move on to a rookie quarterback. But the question that all of these teams who have kind of middling quarterback play need to ask themselves is, am I going to be able to find something that is better? Not just short term. And of course, that's very important. If you're going to continue on with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, you want something short term, but then long term too, because Buccaneers don't have anything on the roster that's going to push for a starting job.
Yeah.
So then, who is that rookie? Where are you picking? We expect the Buccaneers to at least be close in a pretty tight NFC South. So, that one's going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, and Todd Bowles, like there's other factors in this as well. Like it could be it isn't now, but the Buccaneers could be a hard reset team within the next 2 seasons, if not by 2025. So maybe not one that's on everybody's radar, but I'd watch it for quarterback for sure.
Definitely. So moving out to the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals have Kyler Murray locked up, and we expect him to be the starter going forward. The Los Angeles Rams are really fascinating because Matthew Stafford not getting any younger. You see the Rams maybe shopping around this offseason.
It just depends. Like, what's Stafford do? Like, how long does he want to play? And like that's the thing. I think he's there. Like, as long as he wants to be there, I think that's a window that the Rams will continue just to kind of like force that door open as long as he's willing to play. But I think that this is a team. It depends on how high they pick. It depends on how the season goes. But this could be one of those situations where like maybe they do draft a quarterback to bring along beside, because this is a kind of an agreed upon, like Stafford can't hide the fact that he's getting older, right? Like, so that I could see that happening where they draft someone. But they could just run it until the wheels fall off and then draft a quarterback in 2026 as well. So I think that's probably the more logical thing right now is that they probably run it back with Stafford one more year if he's willing to go there, and then they address it the year after.
Yeah, and you mentioned in the last episode, the Rams probably aren't in a situation where they want to bring along a rookie quarterback. So maybe if Stafford does decide to retire, that maybe they would look towards a veteran. You mentioned Daniel Jones, and I know that doesn't sound like an appealing option, but he is a pretty good quarterback. And I think with that Rams coaching staff, they would have kind of the ego or the bravado to think that they can bring somebody along. And Jones has the tools that maybe he could do that. I'm going to skip the 49ers for a second because I want to do them last.
Can we do one thing really quick with the Rams? What?
Sure.
I don't know, like cap-wise, this may be challenging, but can you imagine, like, let's say Stafford wants to play one more year, but like he's kind of like in the twilight there. Like, would the Rams kind of like force their hand if Dak Prescott wanted to be an LA Ram, like, and he wants to come in and play with Puka Nacua and like, kind of be a part of this next generation of Rams out there, like, could you see the Rams like saying like, listen, you're going to play one more year maybe, you're thinking about retiring, you're not sure if it's going to be this offseason. Like, could this be like hey, like we want to send you outright, but we really want you to retire so that we can, bring in the next guy who's never on the market. Like, I don't know, that would be super fascinating because, again, we talked about like all the attractive places that are going to be available to Dak Prescott if he doesn't stay in Dallas. And it's hard to imagine one that would be better than LA.
Yeah, the Rams are projected for $51 million in cap space. I don't know how a retirement affects that number with Stafford. I can't imagine it would make it worse, right? Like
Right.
you're probably going to free things up, especially given where Stafford is at in his deal. So
Yeah.
I think they would have the money, and we know the Rams, right?
Yeah,
Like
they
they're
don't
going to be
ever hesitate.
ultra
Yeah.
aggressive no matter what. So that would be fascinating. And for Dak, like, number one, you get the LA market. You're going to get whatever, it's a blank check, right? You're going to sign whatever deal you want to. And you're going to get to play with, hopefully Cooper Kupp is healthy this year. And then you're going to get to play with Puka Nacua. Pretty good run game. Like, that's got to be a very, very attractive package for a player like Dak Prescott.
Let's talk about the 49ers, Andrew, because that's where we were headed before that.
No. I want to skip the 49ers and come back to them. Let's talk about the Seahawks really quick.
Let's do it.
Geno Smith, is this going to continue to be the answer for Seattle?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. He's got to play well this year. I think 2 years ago was a really good sample for him. I think this coming year is going to tell them a lot about, is he someone that they can continue to kick the can down the road? Do they have a quarterback they can trust? Sam Howell's there. Like, there are a lot of people who think that like he should get a chance. And this could be kind of like that Spencer Rattler Carr situation where like, they've got everything else, right? Like they've got Smith and Jigba, they've got Metcalf, they've got the running game. Like, it's a new regime, right? The new coaches are there. Like, what if it doesn't all click? Like, do they go to Sam Howell earlier? And then if you go to Sam Howell and it's not awesome, like, are we right back in the conversation of a quarterback? So I think Seattle's right in the thick of things, looking for a quarterback next year.
Yeah, I think Seattle is just the same situation that we talked about with Tampa, just a year ahead, because Geno got his contract 1 year prior. And I think, the Seahawks are invested pretty heavily in a new head coach, brand new offensive coordinator. We expect really great things, bringing this system from the Washington Huskies into the NFL. And if things don't work, I could very well see them moving on because there's going to be more job security involved. But then what does that look like, right? Like, is that going to be a rookie quarterback, maybe a Shedeur Sanders kind of player who's actually been compared to Geno Smith? Maybe if he slid to kind of the mid-first round, if Seahawks had like a little bit of a disappointing season, maybe that's something that they consider as well. I want to go to the 49ers next, and there's a reason why. Because I'm gonna throw out the craziest of crazies. What if the 49ers decide that they're just not going to re-sign Brock Purdy? So they ride next year with Purdy on the last year of his deal, and they just say, hey, we are going to make do with not paying a quarterback.
Boy, like, that's a bomb. I mean, no, it makes sense because I think Brock Purdy is a good NFL quarterback. Good. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's a player that you say you're going to win because of. Does the 49ers organization have the guts to say, we think we can do it with somebody else, and then just try to run it that way? Like, I kind of feel like Kyle Shanahan might be the guy to do that, like, and try it like for the first time. And like, obviously they're going to have a sample size this year and they'll continue to assess, like, did he elevate the play? Did he just kind of, how we always say running backs get what was blocked for them? Did he just get what was created for him, like by the scheme? And kind of assess, like, maybe that's in the cards. It would be so unprecedented. Like, it would be kind of just hard to imagine an NFL team doing that. But at the same time, there's a lot of talented players in that 49ers building that they have to pay. And maybe they look at it a little bit differently. Like, that would be quite something.
Yeah, the 49ers actually have kind of a lot of cap space for next year. And, looking forward, Trent Williams eventually is not going to be playing for them. I don't know when that will happen.
Someday.
He's be ageless. Christian McCaffrey, of course, is going to get older. George Kittle's probably near the end of his tenure. And, Deebo Samuel is somebody that they've been talking about as a potential cut candidate going forward as well. So it will be interesting to see how they manage that. I don't think that Brock Purdy is going anywhere. I think 49ers get an extension done. I'm sure it will be annoyingly team friendly, and they'll just move on with their lives. But I have been saying for years, there is some team out there that is going to try this and say, okay, we are going to just rotate quarterbacks on cheap free agent deals or rookie contracts, and we're just going to build up all of the rest of our team, and we're going to be better at every other position except quarterback, and we're going to beat you that way. And I don't know who that is. It's probably not San Francisco, but I do think that that's something that some team will figure out, and if it works for them, then it'll become trendy like everything else in the NFL.
Miami should have tried it. It should have been Miami. It should have been the Dolphins, but they didn't. They caved. They paid Tua, but it should have been the Dolphins. But anyway, no offense to Dolphins fans or Tua, although that was pretty hefty criticism. Thanks for joining us. That was a really fun show. Thanks for liking us, subscribe, stick with us. From the draft room to the gridiron, the Draft Fellows have got you covered. We'll be back really soon with more content as we get further into the NFL season and turn to even more draft content and the college football season. So stay tuned and stay in the game.